What can you say about Pokémon? An idea that blossomed into a gigantically enormous franchise and made schools ban it, and parents scratch their heads, and occupy most of our attention. There's really not much to say about its success that you don't already know. Let's just say it started out as a very unique idea by none other than Satoshi Tajiri. Or Tajiri. I don't know. In fact, it happened when Satoshi was a very little boy running around in Machida, Japan, catching bugs and collecting them and stuff. However, in the late 1970s, the forests and fields that Satoshi loved as a kid were paved over by apartments and parking lots. Which sucked for his bug-catching career, but thanks to that fact, good things happened. Good things. Anyway, years later, the idea was that he imagined the potential a link cable. Yes, a link cable! The true creator of Pokémon could bestow upon us all. Little did our friend Satoshi know that this was a stroke of pure genius. To be honest, that was what attracted me to the Pokémon games. The ability to be yourself, catch and raise whatever monster you wanted, and have amazing strategic battles with one another on separate systems. To me, and hopefully most of you, that was the idea that sparked our young and feeble imaginations. To begin making the game, Tajiri named his development company Game Freak, after the early magazine he and his friends created and published. Nintendo agreed to publish the in-development game, with some persuading by Mario Man himself, Shigeru Miyamoto. Tajiri hired friend, artist, and illustrator Ken Sugimori, who is the graphic genius that personally designed all 151 Pokémon monsters. Not to mention the Gold and Silver 100, which we'll talk about later. Yeah, it's his wonderful watercolor art that graces many Pokémon items, including the box art for all the Pokémon games. Don't you just love his official Pokémon pictures he dishes out from time to time? To date, I believe Ken has drawn 3 different official drawings for each of the original 151 Pokémon, beginning with the rigid first editions, to the super fluid look I drank too much Red Bull second ones, to the digital paintings. Each time the designs somehow showed a certain evolution. I wish I could draw like that. There have been a few concept art pieces released, however, due to the money-hungry and careless nature of this franchise, pathetically small information has been released on the making of these games. The characters, the monsters, the places, and overall how they actually came up with the whole thing is not available to look at. It's sad, because I remember going to the local library as a kid and stumbling upon this picture book called The Art of Pokémon the First Movie. I got excited. Being extremely interested in how movies and games are developed, I thought, oh, this must be like The Art of Star Wars or Jurassic Park. Books that had old sketches and paintings about how the look and design for everything was developed over the course of the film's making. As it should be. But no, this was a total waste of wood, ink, and effort. In this book were simply screenshots. Screenshots from the movie with lame descriptions from the story. That's so pointless. This was proof to me that this creative and fresh idea has garnered no respect from the industry that created it. It's very disappointing. With that said, there's hardly any more pre-release to talk about. Moving right along, we'll just say, after some hard work, Pocket Monsters Red and Green were released through Nintendo in Japan on February 27, 1996. But since most of us Americans weren't there when it happened, they made enough money to make a reprogramming in the form of Pocket Monsters Blue. Plus, it triggered the inevitable Pokemon anime show and trading cards. Whoopee. Okay, that's great and all, but what happened in the United States? Are we ready to understand and to rediscover how all this went down? Indeed we are. And since none of us have any idea how the idea of marketing and releasing Pokemon in the United States and the rest of the non-Japanese people, which would have been such an interesting read, I'll just get to what many of us experienced in the wee days of 1998, when this commercial popped up.
You've been selected to receive the sneak peek about a phenomenon called Pokémon, a hit TV show, a Game Boy game, and loads of other cool things that are about to take America by storm!
Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all! A sneak peek at Pokémon. Pokémon!
The journey's just begun!
Pokémon!
More the better!
Well, it all starts with the TV show September 7th. My nephew, Ash, he just turned 10, is the show's star. His dream is to become a Pokemon master.
Pokemon. Yep.
Geodudes are really tough.
I'm partial to the fire element monsters.
This is a Pokeball.
In the world of Pokemon, 10-year-olds are eligible to become Pokemon trainers. Ash received his first Pokemon, Pikachu, from Professor Oak and began his long journey.
Okay, enough of that. I actually never saw that commercial. Who did? The strategy here was introducing the Pokemon fad. Not only the games, but the anime and the merchandise. Nevertheless, on September 1st, 1998, many of us put that cartridge in that Game Boy, and what we saw after we turned it on would take our interest for a long, long time. Pokémon Red and Blue was an exciting game for us all. Players begin their game in Pallet Town. Ha! Get it? It's all about colors and paints and stuff. Yeah, you already got that, never mind. It's a small town in the Kanto region, which we never knew was called Kanto until the Gold and Silver versions, later on. Professor Oak introduces us to a world of magical creatures called Pokémon. You are this one kid, called Red. No, not Ash. His official name is Red. What kind of stupid person names their character Ash anyway? Oh yeah, apparently every American kid that played Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow. For some reason. Except me. I don't know about you, but I was always called Phil. So after the setting up of the name of yourself, not Ash, and your rival... Why do you name your rival anyway? Whatever. You're good to go. In your room with your awesome Super Nintendo, you start out in Pallet Town. But I've already said that. Professor Oak calls you to his laboratory if you attempt to escape. That old man is fast. And allows you to choose from starter Pokemon. The Grass-type Bulbasaur, Fire-type Charmander, or the Water-type Squirtle. Obviously, in 1999, most of us young players always went for Charmander. Because let's face it, we all wanted the Leviathan of a monster he'll turn into. But what we failed to realize is that each of these Pokemon kind of signify the difficulty level of the game. No, seriously, look, Bulbasaur is easy because with it you can defeat both the first two or possibly even 3 gym leaders with no real challenge. Squirtle is medium because when you get to gym leader 3 you're screwed. And Charmander is hard because the first gym leader you encounter, Brock, specializes in rock-type Pokemon. And later Misty, who trains water types. But who cares? We took Charmander and we love the challenge. Anyway, after your rival chooses the Pokemon that has a type advantage to the one that you chose, what a jerk face, he ridiculously challenges you to a fight. Your first fight. In fact, it's kind of boring. After that, we're able to leave for our journey across the region, ripping through this enormous new world of dreams and adventures, full of excitement and handheld graphics, challenging gym leaders and other Pokemon trainers, up the ladder to the ultimate goal, the Pokemon League. However, not before you deliver that idiotic parcel from Viridian City's market to Professor Oak. Okay, to be honest, how long did it take you to figure that out? I remember when I was playing Red for the first time, it wasn't exactly a piece of cake. Where do I go? Curse you, old man on strike lying on the road! Let me go! Where do I go? So anyway, once you deliver that custom Pokeball to the good prof, he uses his psychic powers to make these bunch of books disappear, and whoa! You just received a Pokédex! A high-tech Pokemon encyclopedia. Oh yeah, wait, who is that Professor Oak guy anyway? In the Pokemon world, he's apparently a very widely respected and well-known professor on the very creatures that we catch and train. Grandfather of your rival, and the inventor of the high-tech encyclopedia, the Pokédex. Professor Oak's lifetime profession, is studying these kooky creatures in the name of science. He's kind of a mentor character for you to look up to. In fact, he's so into the study of Pokemon that he even asks you to remind him what his own grandson's name is. In which case, you probably lied to him and made something really stupid up. His challenge to you is to document and capture all of the Pokemon you will encounter during your nutty journey through the Pokemon world. Aha, that's where the gotta catch 'em all slogan came from, because you have to catch 'em all. Too bad some idiots never will. Moving on, treading through Viridian City, which, no, you notice the gym isn't open for some reason, then you go into Viridian Forest, where in the red version, Weedle is easier to capture, and in blue, it's Caterpie. And I like Beedrill, so I'm just really embarrassed that this thing has such weak hit points and attack. Oh yeah, and it was also possible to capture Pikachu in this one, red and blue. Huh. The primary goal in the game is to train your best team of pocket monsters and to confront and defeat 8 gym leaders. Each of them residing in a major city as you travel. Each of these gym leaders specializing in a certain type of Pokemon. Rock, water, electricity, plant, poison, psychic, no, not like the dumb anime where Ash battled Sabina first before Koga, fire, and ground, coming to a nice full circle at the end. Along the way, you meet up with your rival several times, whom you usually get jealous of, and have multiple run-ins with the insidious Team Rocket, a criminal group that seeks to use Pokemon for their own gain. Which kind of turns out to be the main side quest of the game. It's just kind of cool. Ugh, those rockets. They get so annoying. So many of them in one spot, you can't avoid these guys. That made them pretty formidable, but also pretty annoying during the entire game. There are many secrets and items to collect during the journey too. Remember the Safari Zone? Haha, that blasted Safari Zone. The PA says your time is up. You need those gold teeth. with the inclusion of some pretty cowardly Scyther, yeah, keep running, and some pretty rare Pokemon as well. And who can forget that scamming jerk who offers you a Magikarp for 500 Pokemoney, or whatever the crap they call it, Poke-Yen, Poke-Dollars, Poke-Dinars, whatever. You know, I don't know how many of you bought that thing, but I sure did. And to be honest with you, I know many of you disagree, but it wasn't a bad idea either. I mean, chances are you're gonna be able to get that puppy to level 20 and then BOOM! Got yourself a Gyarados. And of course there were the caves. Mount Moon, Rock Tunnel, Seafoam Islands, Victory Roads, and of course, the Unknown Dungeon. 2 of these contained the legendary birds, Articuno and Moltres. I was always a fire person when I was a kid, so I always had a certain attachment to Moltres, even though he kind of looked like this elongated chicken ostrich, but hey, it's the legendary bird of fire. Works for me. Most of the cave-dwelling episodes got old fast. Always remembered to buy a ton of repel canisters, especially Rock Tunnel. Stupid thing was all dark. Keep forgetting to get HM5. Then there were also the buildings. Rocket Base, the power plant, Pokemon Tower, Pokemon Mansion, and the Sylph Corporation building. Yeah, remember Sylph? Those crazy people with their Master Ball inventions? But I saved it for the ultimate Pokemon ever. The power plant was pretty interesting, because it's one of those places that are pretty overlooked, you know? Kinda hidden. Oh, and in case you never went in there, you could catch Zapdos. Wasn't Electabuzz in there too? That made it a good deal. Remember Pokemon Tower? I don't know about you, but I was always big on ghost Pokemon. And the best ghost type, in my opinion, is obviously Haunter. I mean, look at him. That's the freakiest thing in this game. Totally demented. Sadly, they softened his look for the future games, which is totally lame. Since only Ghastly, Gengar, and Haunter were the only 3 ghost Pokemon around, why the heck did the designers make them dual attack? Considering Ghost should be great against Psychic, and considering they were the only 3 ghost Pokemon in the game, why burden them with an added Poison subtype? Poison is bad against Psychic. The game was criticized for making Psychic, especially the Uber Pokemon Mewtwo, way too strong, and thus making the game unbalanced in terms of strategy, which I agree with. But couldn't you just make the 3 only ghost Pokemon a pure ghost type? Wouldn't that have solved the problem? Anyway, Pokemon Tower was a pretty creepy place. With Pokemon tombstones, graves, urns, channelers, evil spirits? Oh yeah. It was awesome. Especially the Marowak Ghost. That was kinda cool. It could have been more awesome if the ghost Pokemon were pure ghost Pokemon though. Another interesting place was the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island, where you fought pudgy thieves. And who can forget the infamous leap of faith? Only a leap from the lion's head shall prove his wealth. Jokes aside, if we didn't take that plunge, we wouldn't have gotten to the Cinnabar Gym. And of course there was the deep, dark, sinister secret via the journals left behind in this abandoned mansion. The creation of Mewtwo. As you could probably tell, Mewtwo is my #1 in the list of favorites. Even though I might be extremely biased with it, I think it's deserved. As we caught more Pokemon, and gotten stronger and more used to the wonderful world of Kanto, bicycling, surfing, gambling, and even flying around the place like a maniac, ready to take on the Pokemon League in all its glory, there was one little problem. A pathway between you and the Indigo Plateau. Victory Road. A quite annoying place with quite annoying trainers and annoying boulders to mix and match. Move! Move! Then, there was Moltres. Time to take on the Elite Four. That's right, an elite of super champions. The 4 top guys of the Pokemon League. Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, and Lance. You've heard about them, you've read about them, and now... Hey, wait, what? Someone's voice? Don't run away! Who's that? I've always wondered who that was. Obi-Wan, use the Force, man. You hope your team can stand the slaughter. Roll call. Lorelei, Ice type, expert with a bit of water, primary objective, to freeze your Pokemon solid. Bruno, expert with fighting type, uses rock and ground for good measure. Agatha, creepy ghost lady, she's got a bunch of ghost and poison Pokemon. That scares me. Lance, Dragon Master. Because dragons are the trickiest type of the game, finding an edge with this guy is supremely difficult. But after it's said and done, you've just become the first trainer to ever beat the Elite Four. Or have you? Boss battle time! Woo! The rival is back, and after that steady ice skate uphill with the Elite Four, you've got to face the new champion. Remember, his Pokemon combination differs depending on your starter. This is the battle royale of the entire game. Beating your rival means something, alright. It's the end. You've done it. Accomplished what many strive to achieve in the Pokemon world. You are now the greatest Pokemon trainer of them all. Professor Oak comes back to fast old man and takes you to the Hall of Fame where your Pokemon will be recognized the world over for all time. Well, at least until next time. As the game ends and the primary story concludes, might as well just shut the game down, right? I mean, that's it. You've done it. No! This is Pokemon! And this is the very reason we love it. The game doesn't ever truly end. You can keep catching Pokemon, trading, and battling. This is where the true story begins. So take that link cable, go out in the world, catch them all, and continue being the best that you can be! Whoa, that's a song that doesn't exist yet. Hey, psst. Hey guys. What happens when you come across the old fart in Viridian City, let him demonstrate how to catch a Pokemon, fly over to Cinnabar Island, and surf on the edge of the east side? Everyone who was a kid remembers this. It was of course Missingno, legend of the Pokemon that he is. Missingno was apparently a test code of the game that the designers about programming forgot to take out of the game, although it could also cause some damage to the system if caught. But we did it anyways. I'm just a little upset that future games didn't create him for fun, you know, as an official Pokemon. Not an official one, but a secret one that you can still capture. Oh, man. Glitches. Glitches abound. There were many secrets and rumors about going to new places and capturing other Pokemon. In the Yellow version, there was this rumor about Peekaboo. I remember kids coming up to me and going,
Dude, in the Yellow version, you can get Peekaboo, a Pikachu with blue cheeks, or that other one, the Pikachu with the blue one. Yeah. Oh, it's so cute.
Actually, guys, it was a Pikachu that knew Surf, that you could get through Nintendo promotional events. I never got to go to one. How are those? Or use the infamous Game Shark. Oh yeah, gotta love those cheating days. There was this other rumor about beating the Elite Four and being able to somehow roam around the Hall of Fame. And let's not forget the rumor of Bill's Secret Garden, where it was apparently possible to capture Mew. Here, I'll show you right now that it's false. Ugh. Instant save data erasure. And of course, who can forget the secret of the mysterious pickup truck? To this day, I still have no idea why it's still there. What was its purpose? You couldn't see it when you walked across the bridge to the SS Anne in Vermilion City, and yet if you were able to keep the SS Anne from sailing, you could surf to it. And apparently have a Pokemon use strength on it and move it to reveal an encounter with Mew? Mew was a mystery, and the rarest Pokemon of all. Nowadays, it's a bit too popular to have that title anymore. But tried we did, and the glitches of the unsolved Pokemon are still lingering today. All in all, even with a few shaky type advantages and slight imbalance in the gameplay, Pokemon Midori, Aka, Aoi, Red, and Blue paved way to a gigantic craze. An obsession which was rightfully earned. The creativity and level of immersion on a game with very limited graphics on a handheld platform started it all. And we owe it all to the great people who fought to get it finished. Now, us over here in the United States were treated with the TV show first, and to be honest, I saw that before playing the games as well. In fact, the first Pokemon game I seriously played was a special Pikachu edition. That's right, Pokemon Yellow version.
Pikachu.
Yellow is like the upgraded special edition of Red and Blue. It's got much nicer looking Pokemon sprites and more accurate models. Wow, look at this difference. And it's also in color. Well, slightly more colorful. In fact, these colors really make me feel warm and fuzzy and nostalgia. So pretty. Anyway, Yellow not only incorporated improvements to the game engine, but also made use of the TV show and based the story more on that. Which is kind of a loop, you know, the TV show is based on the first two games which deviated from the games often, and these deviations are taken in to make the next game. Whoa! Haha, get your brain around that. Anyway, you start out with a Pikachu this time. That actually sounds like the one in the show. What I don't like about Yellow is that they made Red look like Ash now. Oh well, guess kids looked up to that turd. Pikachu follows you around now, which is cool. I always wanted them to do that for every Pokemon in the game. As a kid, by the time they incorporated that into the games, I wasn't a kid anymore. Thanks, Nintendo. They'll do the same with my idea about being able to fully customize your playable character. Something that I was drawing and imagining in my head that could happen in a new Pokemon game in 1999. Probably when I'm 30. Anyway, I think Pokemon Yellow, ironically, is the hardest of the 3 original Game Boy games. Because you get Pikachu, and you can't be a physics-bending and rule-breaking cheater like Ash is in the TV show, and have to resort to actually using strategy to defeat Brock's Rock-type Pokemon with Flying, Bug, Normal, and Poison types. Something not easily done. Anyway, Pikachu follows you around, and its mood changes depending on how well you treat it. Look at that wonderful little Pikachu. How are you, Pikachu?
You're a happy little Pikachu. Aw, yeah.
Oh yeah, Jesse and James appear. Brock and Misty look like their anime counterparts, and the Unknown Dungeon, or Cerulean Cave, is differently organized. Speaking of which, I haven't talked about that yet. The Unknown Dungeon is the secret cave blocked by some grumpy bouncer or something, deemed unsafe. It's located in the northwest of Cerulean City. After defeating the Elite Four and the rival, the bouncer is nowhere to be seen. You are cleared for entry. Within are a bunch of ultra-high-level, mean Pokémon, and they pester you a lot. But in the center of this cave lies in wait a terror of genetic manipulation, a true powerhouse, a monster, cloned from Mew and purposefully forged to become the Pokémon world's most destructive fighting machine. Mewtwo. And oh boy, without a Master Ball, this is a bugger to catch. Remember to save your data before combat! I'll talk about Mewtwo in later episodes, because basically, there's nothing else to say. Mewtwo's awesome in this game, and that's it. I also kind of wonder how come people didn't complain that Yellow version was simply just a retread of the same game experience in the previous versions, only with slightly better graphics and a few tweaks. Did it really get such a high rating? Apparently, it received a perfect 10 out of 10 masterful rating from Imagine Games Network. It's not really a game I'd recommend for playing if you've gone through and beaten Red or Blue, but shamelessly enough, I've done so as a kid, and actually finished the game and caught all 150 Pokemon with it. In fact, I went to Celadon City's game development building over there, where this one guy gives you an official diploma for catching them all. And sorry, I can't show that on the documentary, because it would have taken a long time for me to do so. Anyway, Yellow triggers a lot of fond memories with me, and I remember having many fun times taking my Game Boy Color around, the teal one, just hanging out with friends and playing Pokemon. Sadly, most of these friends were called Ash on the game, and it was all kind of one-dimensional from that point of view. All in all, the adventures we all shared with Pokemon through Red, Blue, and Yellow give us memories as if they actually happened. It may have very basic graphics, even in Game Boy standards, but that only boosted the amount of immersion and imagination that we experienced in the first generation of the Pokemon games. We gave them nicknames, and felt a slight emotional pull when we traded them. It took us out of the norm, and engaged and sometimes even educated our minds. And, well, it was simply a great milestone in our childhood.
Let the match begin!
Join us next time for coverage of the Pokemon phenomenon. From the TV show to the action figures, trading cards, and general boom that all of us experienced during 1998 and 1999.
Very nice.
Pokemon was ridiculously popular and made all of us very happy and parents extra protective.
Let's go.
La 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 la. All in all, the adventures we all shared with Pokemon through the Red, Blue, and Yellow... All in all, the adventures we all shared with Pokemon through the Red, Blue, and Yellow... What am I rating? Okay, I got it. All in all, the adventures we... Stop making noises. All in all, the adventures we all shared with Pokemon through the Red, Blue, and Yellow... I said red.
You always mess up at yellow.
That's the problem. All in all, the adventures we all shared with Pokemon through Red, Blue, and Yellow give us memories. I can't. I'm Hey guys, join Ash Ketchum, a young Pokemon trainer with his trusty yellow rodent we all know as Pikachu, one of 151 known, 400, 500 billion or whatever, species of Pokemon he just unimaginatively calls Pikachu. What a unique guy. His headstrong, stubborn, outgoing, battle-happy, and generally considered an idiot. Ash is up there and hoping to be a great Pokemon master someday. Joining him on his fruity Pokemon adventures are none other than ex-gym leaders Brock and Misty, as they collectively run around, thwart the evil Team Rocket, occasionally battle gym leaders, thwart Team Rocket, and run around and thwart Team Rocket. It's that wonderfully localized and very overappreciated wonder simply called the Pokemon anime. This little series was spawned out of the success of Pokemon Red and Green. And Blue, which, by the way, was a special edition in Japan, and its source code was the basis for the rest of the world's Red and Blue versions. See, the graphics in Japan's original Green and Red really looked and operated a little retarded, and of course most of the Pokemon do not look like the ones that we know today. Ew. And after an obscure semi-spoof of a manga, also the first Pokemon-based comic to reach stores, and a few minuscule tie-ins here and there, I'm assuming the game's popularity garnered enough attention to have it made as... the TV show we all remember.
I never knew about that.
In Japanese, we are introduced to a 10-year-old boy by the name of Satoshi. That's a familiar name. Anyway, he gets his first Pokemon from our favorite professor, Dr. Okido. Also, he meets up with his longtime rival, Shigeru. Wait, Shigeru? Satoshi? I'm sensing something here. It's fascinating to observe that the Pokemon series is still in production even today. So far, 620-something episodes have been recreated. Blimey! I'm frankly quite surprised, and I'll tell you why soon enough. Anyway, I believe it was the anime that triggered the general interest in Pokemon for most of the kids out there in the world. And from the success of both Red and Blue, and the anime, which played an important part, that's how Pokemon became a craze and created a giant marketing explosion. So anyway, sometime in '97, 4Kids was given the permission. And of course, who can forget Summit Entertainment... What? But I can be your friend. Oh, no. They dubbed and localized the Pokemon anime to all of us wonderful children in the United States, and later on, most of the world.
That's right, loser, and it's right inside this Pokeball.
We know the basic gist. Ash wants to be the greatest
Pokemon Master!
and gets his Pikachu from Professor Oak, meets up with his rival, called Gary in our US version, and teams up with Brock and Misty on his never-ending, and I'm serious about that, quest to become a Pokemon Master. Kind of like the game, except more retarded. Okay, not retarded, but just plain silly. Also, we have our villains, the pun-obsessed duo Jesse and James, and Meowth, who work for the Pokemon criminal organization known as Team Rocket. They usually team up with our heroes of the show, and aren't much of a threat as they used to be in, what, was it, 3 episodes? Sheesh. After that, they just get really annoying. It's all routine pretty much from there on. Pokémon premiered in the United States on September 8th, 1998. To our very own Kids WB. I sound like an announcer. Which was known for obviously playing Looney Tunes, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Batman, and so forth, during the 3 years it was on before Pokemon arrived. I'll have to be honest and say that I haven't heard of Kids WB until I was... Okay, that's not true. I watched Space Jam and they had a little preview about Kids WB before that. But I generally didn't know about it before Pokemon arrived. But when it did, I think it got a lot better.
These are Pokémon. Yeah. They have many different powers and abilities, and a young boy is out to catch them all. Meet Ash Ketchum, along with his friends Brock and Misty, and his first pet Pokémon, the electrifying Pikachu. Ash will face many battles in his quest to become a Pokémon Master. All the while, he must avoid evildoers like Team Rocket. Prepare to join a boy on a quest. Prepare for Pokémon.
I could have just played that commercial instead of repeated myself twice. Now 3 times!
That's bad.
I'm sorry about that. In the meantime, let's detour and ask ourselves, when were we introduced to Pokemon? Well, I was introduced to it by friends from school. Ha! There was one day in 1999 when I was sitting down, minding my own business, eating some peanut butter crunch, and the back of the box had all this Pokemon stuff on it. I thought it was another one of those dumb animes where these stupid creatures talked. It wasn't about anything particularly interesting. Just another good guys versus bad guys plot. You know. Not until some kids in school were like,
Dude, what are you, a loser?
and after a brief explanation, yep, I think I was pretty excited about it. Pokemon ran on Kids WB, at least in the Midwest, usually at around 7 in the morning and 3:30 p.m. on weekdays, with most of us rushing out of school in anticipation not to miss the next episode. Unfortunately, 5th grade at my school ended at 3:30, making it almost impossible to watch the next episode from the beginning. It was such a challenge just trying to catch, haha pun, them all! I have no doubt in my mind that I wasn't the only one who considered it a gigantic thing to wake up before 7 a.m. on weekdays to watch what I believe was sometimes 2 brand new episodes of Pokémon. I'm also really impressed at the creative commercials Kids WB used for its shows. Seriously, check this one out for instance.
Okay, do you understand the rules?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Let's go. I choose you, Golbat.
I win.
No, that's cheating.
What?
The Batman-Superman Adventures this weekend.
Ha! Awesome. Raid YouTube to find more. They're really special stuff. But to me, the bumpers are ridiculously nostalgic. It's the music and the images that are simply so Pokémon, it's beyond comprehension. I mean, listen to it. That's bliss right there.
You got that right.
Were we all disappointed after a certain time that Kids WB switched to the adult The WB right after Pokémon? That was such a letdown. Curse your 7th heaven! Also, remember all these advertisements where they kept talking about these brand new episodes of Pokémon? That confused me because I knew these were already aired in Japan and they're probably already at Gold and Silver, which we wouldn't have gotten until maybe a year later. So what's all this about these new episodes if we've probably already seen them on video cassette? Yeah, remember those prehistoric things? And chances are that they were just a rerun anyway. Also, the advertisements on Kids WB kept lying to me. Seriously, I can vividly remember one time where they said 2 brand new episodes of Pokémon! And then had it buzz out and switch to the normal The WB and freaking 7th heaven right after the ads! With no so-called 2 brand new episodes of Pokémon in sight!
No, it can't be.
Not that I haven't noticed, but 4Kids does tend to try either too hard or too little when it comes to localizing, and in fact censoring a few things. I'm definitely not against localizing a foreign show for the kiddies over here, especially one that features a fictional world and characters that aren't particularly supposed to be reflective of the culture it originated from. But that is obviously onigiri, kind of like the traditional Japanese version of a sandwich. And, well, it's kind of shameless.
These donuts are great. Jelly-filled are my favorite. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
I saw this as a kid and I was like, where can I get a donut like that? Obviously, the Pokemon world has its own currency. Us gamers know about the Poke Yen, Dinar, Dollar, whatever you call it. Poke Bucks, Poke Currency. You know. But this is pretty unforgivable.
What is this? We gotta keep looking till we find something!
Ah, a penny!
Yes, that is a penny. Abraham Lincoln. I bet he owned a Rhydon. More censoring and localizing coming up. This thing. I'm horrible at this. Tune in next time where you'll see utterly awkward stuff like this. Pokémon Star! Kids WB used to make up these really random marathons during the times Pokemon was at its peak. No doubt they were fun, because we get to watch more Pokemon on the channel. But there were things such as the Char Marathon, which I remember I was excited about, Meowth Week, and this weird ad.
Next weekend, a strange new Pokémon enters the arena.
Bulbasaur, Sidewitch, go! Pikachu!
It's the season premiere showdown.
Don't make me mad or I'll have to fight you!
Arbok, Poison Sting Attack, now!
Everyone is powerless against this new, never-before-seen Pokémon. What is that? Don't miss the Pokémon all-new season premiere next weekend on Kids WB.
Huh? Licky Tongue? Season premiere? This was so confusing, especially nowadays when I'm crammed with all this useless Pokémon knowledge. Okay, 2 episodes. It basically covered the entire Kanto region from the original Red and Blue games. Officially speaking, the second season would have been the Orange Islands Adventures. Obviously, the episode being advertised was number 52, Princess vs. Princess, in which Jessie catches a Licky Tongue, being the only new permanent change in the story's routine from what I believe could be a dozen episodes. However, there is nothing special in this particular episode other than that. So what's all this about a season premiere? I mean, sure, if the Pokemon series was actually that creative to have subplots and, I don't know, character development, it would have deserved to have had 600 episodes made of it. So what was all this Kids WB promoting of self-invented seasons and teasers to just one of the same unimportant episodes? I'm rambling. Woohoo! Cliffhanger week! I wonder how they did that. Did they have to edit the endings out of the show and add it later?
Pokémon! Brock is turned into a doll, these Gyarados want to eat Pikachu, and Ash has been turned into a ghost! Will everything be okay? We don't know!
What?
We don't know! The episodes all ended before we could find out what happened!
But I want to know!
I have no clue. Then Charmarathon, which was probably comprised of all the episodes the Charmander Evolutions were featured in. And of course Meowth Week.
Why does Meowth get his own week?
With episodes starring Meowth. This is weird because Meowth is in every episode pretty much. And sometimes Charmander, Charmeleon, or Charizard might just appear for 1 second in an episode. So how did they get by with all these strange marathons? I have no idea. I can't remember. Horribly written or not, the Pokemon anime still kept us watching, and now it's quite the nostalgic treasure for many of us. Everything from the lovely watercolor backgrounds to the music. The music! 4 kids in Koch Records decided on developing an album of Pokemon-centered songs to go with the animes. Not an unusual feat at all for something like this. The To Be a Master album is the one we all know by heart.
Yeah, that's right!
Who can forget the Pokemon theme? Weird track called Misty's Song, which confused me greatly. Listen to some of the lyrics, why don't you? See? You see what I'm saying? Clearly it's not Mystery's voice actress, Rachel Lillis, who, surprise, is also the voice of Jessie and Jigglypuff, to name a few. Is this a suggestion that her and Ash... Oh, no, that's a very stupid notion. How is that even possible? I mean, I guess that sort of thing makes sense because Misty keeps following Ash around and her excuse is that she's waiting for Ash to repay her for the bike that she destroyed in the first episode, but we all know that's mostly just a cover-up. She hides secret feelings for her, little lad. Aw, how cute! But does our hero, Ash, feel the same way? I don't think so. Me and my brother used to joke about this all the time as kids. To us, Ash was obviously devoid of sexuality and love because he's just that stupid and that preoccupied with training Pokemon that has never been able to emerge. Ash is stuck in this prepubescent stage. Forever!
Ash, I want to marry you. Who? Marry who? Misty wants to marry Ash. Oh. I don't know anything about love.
Now that we've totally gotten away from the topic, let's get back on track. The To Be a Master album is quite the nostalgic reliquary. Everyone knows the Pokemon dance mix and how they always use them for the movie trailers. Don't know why. And of course, On the Road to the Real City, which is really energetic and I still enjoy listening to it. But I know for sure that the song we all love the most is the Poke Rap. I mean, come on! That beat, that bass line, and those notes, it's the epitome of Pokemon. Wasting all your time by singing this song. I am done. I remember it was someone's birthday party at a roller arena and they started playing that, so I was showing off my rapid skills while skating past the other kids and rapping some Pokemon. Remember how they were always shown in 5... Speaking of the old Viz-released VHSs, I always remember the Game Boy commercial from it.
On your Game Boy, that's where. Pokemon for Game Boy is here. With both packs, you can catch them
And
all.
right after, Run My Run 1/2, which I never was interested in, but because it was in the Pokemon tapes, it's now part of the nostalgia of 1989 and Pokemon. Still not focusing on the topic at hand. I'm sure all of you have had these songs ingrained into your cranium as being one source for Pokemon-related goodness. Remember John Leffler's You Can Do the Score? In essence, the background music, recorded by a live orchestra, or so it sounds, for the anime, yes, in Japan. Some of the cues directly taken from the video games themselves, and some original songs that we will always remember, such as the Team Rocket theme, Jesse and James theme to be more specific. There have been albums released in Japan for it, but I don't know about the States, which is a shame. Can't we educate the kids in orchestral instrumental music either? Can't we educate the kids in orchestral instrumental music as well? Come on. I'm also upset that the complete soundtrack wasn't released at all. I'm something of a fan of orchestral music in films and TV shows, and always consider it essential to have the complete thing available to listen to. This musical enterprise is sadly very overlooked by the Pokemon companies and community. It's been 8 minutes already. Tune in next time to truly see what this awkward stuff was that I told you about last time. Whatever. It's not gonna take that long. Trust me. Alright. Will Ash succumb to temptation? We'll find out in the next episode.
To be continued!
Dun dun dun! Now we come to the notorious band episode. And for this series, there was a total of 3. And instead of just cutting out the not-so-acceptable parts, for some reason they just banned the entire episode. But ironically enough, for the later season, they did in fact air and dub one of the more risque ones. How and why did this even happen? Who knows? But what is certain is that we can check it out and see for ourselves. The first band episode is, of course,
Beauty and the Beach!
In chronological order, it fits between Island of the Giant Pokémon and Tentacool and Tentacruel.
We find our heroes stranded at Porta Vista. It seems our friends have missed the boat. It'll be a long 3 hours until the next ferry.
You always wondered why they just arrived in Porta Vista in the first episode, and on the second episode immediately wanted to leave it, right?
I never knew about that.
I know, Ash, I know. Well, this is the answer. First off, I just want to say, this was dubbed and aired, but almost 2 years later in the Orange Island series, where it was advertised on Kids WB as the Lost Episode! Ooh. Of course, the controversial bit was taken out, and a few lines were reworked. What was this controversial bit, you ask? Well, the episode featured a swimsuit beauty contest in which Misty, of course, enters to raise funds for a poor old guy running a lousy restaurant to cater to all the tourists. Of course, our annoying, dastardly duo, Jesse and James, join in to win the cash prize and all that goes with it.
Let's go!
Their scheme includes...
優勝は私たちがいただくわ。小次郎、何よ、あんた男でしょ？
いいの。私の美しさには男も女もないの。
小砂利はお邪魔り。あっちお行き。
boobs. I guess that was a bit risque for us very reserved American kids, or at least our parents, but if you watch it in context, it's really not that big of a deal, and it actually is quite hilarious. But I guess because Pokemon was so obsessively popular and kid-oriented, any wrong move would trigger a giant controversy. So, on the safe side, it was given the snip, and we will never get to hear James's English voice say these lines. The second episode was Legend of Dratini, which took place in the Safari Zone, and led to a lot of continuity errors, such as why Ash has a Tauros out of nowhere. Yeah, but judging by the horrible continuity the series already has,
Why do you always have to hog the spotlight?
it wasn't surprising to me that he just got one out of nowhere.
That's right.
And the whole reason why it wasn't dubbed or aired ever was because of this. Really? Really?
That's kind of pathetic when you think about it.
Yeah.
Oh well, whatever. Then why weren't those shots with the handguns just cut out and dubbed over like Beauty and the Beach? Or better yet, since we called onigiri donuts and pasted over numerous other signs and items, why couldn't they just have superimposed, I don't know, squirt guns or something? That's what I mean when 4Kids tries either too hard or too little when it comes to censoring or localizing the series. This was exactly in between. It's just like, let's skip it. Which is rather unfortunate because it does tell us a thing or two about some permanent changes that take action in later episodes. And what's up with Misty's own fishing lure? Where did she get that made? The third and most famous one is obviously Dennogency Porygon! Or Electric Soldier Porygon. And geez, this episode brought the Pokemon series to a temporary hiatus and almost canceled the show. 800 kids were physically affected by it, and poor Porygon would never see realization in hand-drawn animation ever again. I'm talking about the scene where Pikachu decides to thunderbolt an antivirus program while the gang are stuck in a computer, saving the transferred Pokemon Center Pokeballs from Team Rocket in cyberspace! Search YouTube for the actual seizure part. Never mind. Check this out! I'll show you! Well, its effect was obviously much worse if you watch it in full screen and look very close to it, which I don't recommend you do. And that is exactly what most of the poor kids who were affected by it did. And yes, some had seizures too. Anyways, because of that, it was banned. Not only for the US, but even in Japan. It caused a lot of controversy and even instigated some new rules for future animated shows, and to avoid seizure-induced fiascos like this one was able to do. This episode was rather short, but we'll be taking a break from the anime to focus on the other wonderful things that Pokémon in 1998 to 2000 has to offer. That includes the N64 games, the card game, and a bunch of other stuff that I have to still think about. And if you got anything to suggest, we'd love to hear it. So please, don't hesitate. Share this around, make it awesome.
See ya in a week.
That's what can't miss the show. You gotta catch it all.
Professor.
During the summer of 1999, we were all kind of tiring of the same catch-em-all premise. I mean, sure, it was awesome and fun and addicting, but what else could you do with Pokémon? Well, in my opinion, you could do a lot, but that's another story. However, in response to this, Nintendo decided to let HAL Laboratories develop a very creative little game that had nothing to do with catching or training Pokémon, and was officially released during the summer of 1999 in the United States. What came out in July was none other than the first 3D Pokémon game, Pokémon Snap! Woo! Snap was a pretty unique game in which you took the role of Todd, from the very few episodes he appeared in the anime, who aspires to become the world's greatest photojournalist. Exciting! So you, as Todd, are taken into an exclusive assignment by none other than Professor Oak for research on the imaginatively titled Pokémon Island, to photograph and document all the species that frolic within. I swear, they should seriously give the Pokémon series an underlying continuity. If they invented this random island for just Pokémon Snap, why didn't they actually add it into the rest of the Pokémon world? For example, since the game came out before Yellow, they could have been awesome to program the thing into the Pokémon world's geography and have it accessible starting with the Yellow version. The same goes with the anime filler The Orange Islands. I mean, come on, why didn't they do this? It would have been a creative and much more immersive experience that way. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Snap was quite the fun experience nonetheless, where you were in this train track-based machine called the 01. Unimaginatively vague title, as anything could be called the 01 and sound awesome. Anyway, as the 01 automatically kept moving on a pre-designated pathway through the level, which you, the player, don't control, but can speed up later on, it's up to you to move the camera around and snap as many Pokémon in their natural habitat as possible. Funny, because if any of you did some real photography, you would know that taking pictures while moving will generally result in a poor photograph. Okay, not in the beach area, but definitely in those caves. With all that darkness, the different areas to explore on the island are diverse and various. And it was fun to check out and see what these Pokémon species do in the wild, just on an observational standpoint. There were a total of 7 areas to take Pokémon pictures of.
Yes!
The beach, that was all bright and sunny. The tunnel, some sort of abandoned power plant or something. The volcano, full of fire Pokémon, which I used to really love. River, cave, valley, and once you get all the Pokémon pictures to Professor Oak, the Rainbow Place or something, where it was possible to take pictures of the mysterious and rarest of all Pokémon, Mew. You could also use the Pokéflute and random fruits and little gas-related pester balls to interact with the Pokémon in the wild and take their picture. When the stage was done and you would choose your best picture to show, Professor Oak would review them and give you points, which would unlock more areas to take Pokemon pictures of. There were lots of humorous secret things to do in this game as well, and many Pokemon reacted differently towards the camera, flutes, food, and pester balls. Now I'm surprised you never got in trouble for all this Pokemon abuse. I mean, look, you keep throwing pester balls that release some sort of laughing gas or something, and apple-looking food at them, and chances are you'll always hurt them rather than feed them, and then you'd be manipulating their feelings by playing a Poké-Flute. Imagine doing that in the Serengeti National Park, throwing apples and gas bombs at zebras or wildebeest. Seriously. What Professor Oak allows you to do it for the sake of science. Mercilessly pummeling Pokemon into submission while trying to get their photo. Yeah, that's really observing Pokemon in their natural habitat. It's also really confusing to me as to why this game never got a sequel. I mean, we have the Wii now. It's possible to move the Wiimote like a handheld camera, and the graphics are far better. So is the space capacity, which means more interactive and bigger levels. And there are bazillion more creatures now than there were in 1999. Seriously? No sequel? I'm telling you, it's the creativity that's the key to the success of Pokemon. And that's what is continuously being downplayed ever since the original games appeared. It's okay. I'll just show you the commercial for Pokemon Snap because it's so nostalgic.
Today's assignment, photograph the elusive Pokemon. How do you do it? You're gonna be fast. You need a keen eye, the best equipment, and lightning-quick reflexes.
No, you don't. All you need is Pokemon Snap, the first Pokemon game for N64. Find them, frame them, and shoot.
Doesn't look like they're coming out today. Hard luck.
Pokemon Snap, gotta catch it.
Hey, remember Blockbuster? Duh, of course you remember Blockbuster. You probably went there yesterday to rent Alone in the Dark or something horrible like that. I mean, do you remember all the awesomeness they did when Pokemon was super popular? Yeah, baby! The Pokemon Snap Station is what I'm talking about. When Snap came out, participating Blockbuster stores installed a pair of N64s with Pokemon Snap and a TV, and a photo printer into a big box and called it the Pokemon Snap Station. With that said, you could buy yourself a Snap card and take photos of Pokemon using the game, and then have them printed out as minuscule tiny stickers. I think it's kind of a ripoff because the stickers were so tiny, but I did in fact try it out. The clerk asked me what kind of Pokemon I wanted on the Snap card, and I was trying to describe Charizard, but I was given Charmander. Close enough. Because obviously the only 5 characters on the design were Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, and Jigglypuff. It was also possible to bring your own Snap cartridge, which stored the photos you took using your own game, and print those as well, which is actually a much better deal considering the only level available on the Snap Station's game was the first one! Stupid beach. Pokemon Snap was one of the very few excellent spin-off games of the franchise, and also one of the shortest and easiest to finish, which is a shame, but its replay value, I think, makes up for it somewhat. Somewhat being the key word here. In the meantime, let's talk about something else I've never played, but I feel obligated to mention. That was, of course, Pokémon Pinball. A pinball game, but with Pokémon! How exciting. The cartridge was loaded with a rumble pack. Look how huge that thing is! It makes it feel like something really awesome. Now that's kinda cool. It had 2 fields in it, red and blue, in which I think you could catch different Pokémon with Pokéballs on the pinball field. And do stuff like that. Unlike red and yellow and blue, this one was exclusively for Game Boy Color. Pretty awesome. A fun little way for pinball people to play Pokemon in a pinball sort of way. Crazy stuff! I like the music in it, actually, and its Pokemon theme remixes, and how nicely the elements are used in the game. A solid piece of Poké spin-off fun I've never played because pinball games bore me. But look at that. Look how fun that is. I've never played this game and I'm just watching the thing going on. Woohoo, Duck Trio, go kill it, destroy it! Anyway, back to Pokemon Snap. It reminds me of a ride at a theme park. I love the level at the volcano where you can keep throwing those apples at them and more will appear, and then you can make them do this funky marching band dance. Look at that. Also, in each level was a hidden Pokemon-looking sign that once you took all of them for each level, you'd be taken to Mew to pummel hard apples at it. But hey, what's that up there at the stars? Wait, let me check those Pokemon sign pictures again. Oh my. A deathly creature of the stars casts shadows upon us. Okay, so that about concludes it. Join us next time for another adventure in Pokemon gaming. And maybe even the anime. Who knows? Stay tuned.
Yes!
Pokemon was seriously a big deal in early 2000 and 1999. It appeared out of the blue, and in less than a year, simply dominated the spotlight. We were all into Pokemon at some point. Pokémon Yellow came out, and even though it sold 10 million copies in 1 week, it was still just Game Boy fodder. You know, 2D graphics. Obviously, we had plenty link cable battles and trades to take care of, but battling was still just 2D. It was still just, you know. Look, a picture and a little effect. But in February 2000, my birth month, coincidence? No. A spectacularly awesome game came out by the name of Pokémon Stadium. And by the powers of Raichu, that game was the only reason I wanted an N64. Yes, I know, pathetic. I love this game. To me, Pokémon Stadium is like the ultimate arena for Pokémon trainers who own the Game Boy. With an included Game Boy game pack, you could transfer yourself to the N64 and use your own caught Pokemon to battle against plenty of challenging trainers in the game, or even in real life. It really was a stadium of epic proportions. All the Pokemon, for the first time ever, were available to be seen in 64-bit 3D. This game came out in Japan in August 1998, and had horrible box art, and was incomplete. Yup. It only comprised of 49 usable Pokemon to battle with. And the interface was not what we were used to. Ish. But it's okay. They actually completed it, and then it came out in April 1999 in Japan for real as Pocket Monsters Stadium 2. I feel sorry for everybody who had to buy the first one. And just like the special blue edition from the Japanese version, Pocket Monster Stadium 2 was used and translated into our very own Pokemon Stadium.
A battle looms over this place. It's a battle for destiny, a battle for glory, a battle for...
The game's setting is comprised of a menu which is set in a really awesome and exciting looking stadium facility. Seriously, they should have added the area where the stadium was located in the official Pokemon World map or future games. Come on, think creatively for a change. Which is probably the daddy of the Pokemon Battle Frontier of the later generations. The features on Stadium are pretty solid and chock full of stuff to do. Other than battling, you could participate in Mario Party-like Pokemon mini-games. Run Rattata Run, Magikarp Splash, that Sandshrew game, and the Sushi Turnaround with Licky Tongue, to name a few. I was always fascinated with the sushi level. It made me hungry, even though I didn't know what the green bucket of toxic waste, as I called it, was. Psst, it's wasabi. And I was always amused by the traditional no-style yells. In fact, it is making me hungry now. The mini-games were quick, high energy, and simple, usually requiring you to tap on a button on the controller as fast as possible, but dang it, it was still fun! They even had tournaments for it! Oh, look over there. There was also a Game Boy Tower where you could play the Game Boy games attached to the console. What's so special about this? Well, many things. Firstly, it's convenient. It's like you're physically in the stadium and let's say you forgot to catch a Pokemon to trade with your friend. Easily head to the Game Boy Tower and get back to your adventure. Catch the Pokemon and return to the stadium. It felt kind of realistic in that neat, unique sort of way. Plus, if you completed a few challenges in the stadium, you could unlock 2 speeds for the game as well. The Duo and Dodrio speeds. I'm very glad this feature was added. Sometimes I even refused to play the game when I was at home on my Game Boy because this was eons faster and more convenient. beat that! Yeah, Pokemon Stadium, and oh, what's this? The lab! Professor Oak's Stadium Lab! Which was, to me, one of the essential parts of the stadium experience. It's a room that has all kinds of neat things to do. Like, check out your own Pokédex, and see the Pokemon models in glorious 3D. And it was possible to check out the map where each Pokemon resided. Look how cool that is! At the lab, you could also organize your items and Pokemon and check them out in 3D too. Nicknamed Pokemon were given a slightly different random hue than normal ones, which even further made the games more realistic and unique to every Pokemon you caught. Or at least in a basic sense. You could also store Pokemon into the Stadium cartridge yourself! Even more Pokemon space to fill! The N64 cartridge also kind of acted like a Pokemon orphanage in that sort of weird sense. Look at that, all these belong to Phil. He died. Game erase. The same could be said for other items in which you could store them in the N64 cartridge and give them to other players. Now that was pretty awesome. And there was a trading station as well. Huzzah! Now let's get to the main thing. The meat of the game was obviously the grandiose Pokemon battles. There were 3 areas to do just that. The stadium, the Gym Leader Castle, and the free battle. The stadium was the official tournament in which there were different rules for different cups. Poké Cup was pretty much the main thing, levels 50 to 55, which, if you've been playing the red, blue, and yellow versions casually, most likely most of your Pokemon would fit this requirement. However, each of the CPUs in Stadium rental Pokemon were at level 50. There was also the Pika Cup and Petite Cup. Both were meant for smaller, not fully evolved Pokemon. Petite Cup was exclusively for Stage 1 Pokemon, or simply just petite Pokemon. You know, all the really cute ones the little kids liked. If that's so, then what's Ghastly doing here? Ah! Oh my word! All the Pokemon had to be around levels 25 to 30. Talk about a pain in the butt for using your own Pokemon in the Game Boy cartridge. It even had a rule about your team not exceeding level 80 for all involved. Sheesh! My goodness, well, that's a bit too complicated and difficult a thing to abide when considering it's just a lousy cutesy-poo Pokemon tournament. There's also the Pika Cup, and the rules are just as complicated, and it's for Pokemon starting from levels 15 to 20. Which is basically the Loser Cup. Hate it. Screw this, I'm going to the Poké Cup and Prime Cup. I don't want to be picky, but those rules are way too specific. The Poké Cup was awesome, because it featured a really cool-looking stadium area, and you could use as any Pokemon you wanted, with the exception of the now called uber-legendary Mewtwo and Mew. I remember my savage frustration with beating all 4 stages of the Cup. Yikes, so many battles. The limited continues were also a giant letdown as well. You could only get a free continue if all 3 of your Pokemon didn't faint during the battle. Holy Magikarp! Don't they realize how hard this is without any items to use? It was just pure frustration after losing the semi-finalist over and over and over, and having to go through a time-consuming mess of the same morons over and over again. I'm quite upset there were no difficulty level options for this thing. It was tough, alright, but in my opinion, for the wrong reason. I always hated, and I still do, the no continue style of gameplay. I sound like Brock! Now, Prime Cup was the most awesome cup. Because you could use any Pokemon! Yup, even Mewtwo and Mew. It was a giant, tough, epic free-for-all with no boundaries. Except that every Pokemon from the opponent would be at level 100! Not a problem if you were like me and used the Game Shark, a Game Boy's best friend. That was the most fun and stressless cup to compete. No stupid, complicated calculations of how big a Pokemon was or of its abilities. Pure destruction, mayhem, strategy, and battles. The only drawback was I kind of really hated the area Prime Cup took place in. Ugh, gross looking. Reminds me of the anime Metropolis. The Gym Leader Castle felt like a special stadium rendition of the gym leaders you had to confront and defeat in the Game Boy games. And of course, that's exactly what it was. This time, the leaders had a slew of different types, making it far more difficult and exciting when you battled them. Each tower you defeated would get you higher and higher to the top. After the 8th gym leader was defeated, you confronted the Elite Four once again, this time much more elite than in the game, truly testing your ability as a Pokémon trainer. And of course, we'd have our rival battle at the end of it all. Last and not least, the free battle arena. Oh yeah. In context, this is where the Immortals would gather and clash in epic fights. This was basically the sandbox, the ultimate arena of the Pokémon Stadium game. Up to 4 players on 2 teams could switch turns and bring each of their own Pokémon in memorable battles, or fight the CPU in sparring and training. Rules could be set or disabled. This is truly where the real battles would be immortalized. Friendships would be created, strategies formulated, Pokémon boasted about, and rivalries settled. The free battle was the final frontier, and these battles would be mercilessly fought in... well, in that freaking backyard! What the crap, people? Seriously? This is it? A lovely minuscule little glade in the outskirts of the stadium with only a dozen onlookers? Huh! Big mistake. Big mistake. It's really an embarrassment. There was no option available to change the playing field's look whatsoever. And there were plenty of them in the Pokémon Stadium game, of course. Well, you wouldn't be able to change it until Stadium 2, which will be talked about later. Yes, Stadium 2 rocks an infinitum more than the Stadium 1. When you beat all cups and the Gym Leader Castle, a familiar silhouette would appear in the sky. Who is it? None other than the most awesome Pokémon of all time, Mewtwo. It's a 6-on-1 ultimate battle with the most powerful Pokémon of them all. Let me tell you, he's no piece of cake to take down. But once his butt was kicked, the stadium unlocks a new, harder mode, the second round. Yup, a tougher version of the stadium. Now the setting is at night. But the free battle is still sunny and lame for some reason. And it's time to beat the whole thing once more, but in a harder mode. I never beat it. Yup, it was that hard. In the main menu, there was a Battle Now option, which was kind of stupid, but I guess good for newcomers of the game that never played the Game Boy games. In my opinion, that was the best looking stadium area in the entire game. Look how cool that thing looks like. Open air, really basic, but really familiar and cool looking. Too bad you couldn't use it at the free battle mode. And we also have a special snapshot mode. You could take photos of your favorite Pokemon and make your own Pokemon and have them saved and take your cartridge to the Pokemon Snap Center at Blockbuster to get developed into puny little stickers. Woohoo! You could also take pictures of your own Pokemon from the game too. And what's this? You can change the stadium area in this virtually pointless program and not in the free battle? For all the... Never mind. Well, this ain't no Super Smash Bros. Melee, which was done with much more creativity and care for the characters and property, where you could have a 4th controller plugged in and use it as a camera to take snapshots during the battles. So all you could do was have the Pokemon stand in the center of the stadium and occasionally do its little yell animation. But that's it. Nope, can't put more than one in a picture, and no, you can't have them battling or anything. Very, very limited. And this is a pretty pointless part in the game, which is why it hasn't returned in Stadium 2, thank goodness. The Pokemon cries were cool versions of the Game Boy cries, and if you had Pikachu from the Yellow, it would sound like it does in the anime. Nifty! And yes, in case you were wondering, I don't really like the idea that Pokemon yell out their own names in the anime. Okay, it's kind of funny for some of the smaller ones, but in official canon, the Game Boy games, I consider the cries from the game much more accurate and perfectly acceptable. Hey, I gotta go to the mall!
If you want to be a great Pokemon master like I do, then you gotta get to the Pokemon 2000 Stadium Tour, coming to your town soon.
You can compete for official Nintendo trainer badges and be one of the first to try the brand new Pokémon Stadium game for N64. Make sure you bring your own Game Boy and Game Pack because we're giving away the rarest Pokémon of all, you.
You might even see Pikachu there.
Coming to the parks at Arlington, February 19th and 20th.
Despite my complaints with it, I loved Pokémon Stadium and really considered it the ultimate battle frontier of the Pokémon Game Boy games to truly test one's skills and strategies, which is, at least for the first generation, the point of the entire game series.
I've always liked you.
Ready to be the ultimate Pokemon Master Trainer!
Yes, I think I am.
Soon enough, because Pokemon couldn't possibly become any more popular. And you knew that if they were playing Pokemon songs from the To Be a Master album on the local radio at roller rinks, and what have you. Wizards of the Coast, the Magic the Gathering guys, acquired a license to translate and create the Pokemon card game from Japan. It was developed and published by the Japanese company Media Factory Incorporated, and came out right when the games did, in 1996. But over here it was Wizards, and that game offered us a chance to palpably be able to capture Pokemon cards, build a deck, and have an alternate way of battling Pokemon. Especially if one couldn't afford or be interested in the Game Boy games. I wasn't too big on the card game because I had what I call the real Pokemon game. At the time I was primarily interested in collecting the 2-inch Tommy figures as well. But rest assured, obviously we had quite a collection. Thank you, peer pressure. The objective of the game is to have a deck of 60 cards, composed of Pokemon monster cards, energy cards to let them use the attacks they have, and trainer cards, which were sort of like special effect cards, where it would let you do stuff like draw 2 cards or whatever. For each turn, you'd have to draw a card and place it in your hand. The goal is, like the Game Boy game, to use your Pokemon to beat the crap out of your opponents, or have them run out of cards in their deck. Games aside, this could very well be the main cause of aggressiveness of Pokemon Frenzy. The cards were addictive stuff. Booster packs would contain an assortment of totally random 11 cards, either common and uncommon Pokemon, trainer, and energy cards, and 1 rare or holo foil. Me and my brother, whenever we got a new booster pack, we were always on edge when going through the 11 cards and anticipating what the rare would be. But yeah, we never did this.
Can I read?
Yikes! Okay, enough of that. So anyway, we'd always get disappointed if the rare wasn't a holo. Our greatest hope was obviously to get the base set Charizard. And it was always a running joke whenever me or my brother bought a new booster pack, we'd tell each other, yeah, I got a Charizard, sarcastically. But one time, my brother came back from the mall and told me that once more. And I said, yeah, right. To which he stared at me like the sky itself was falling. And yelled, "Oh yeah?" Rest assured, we turned into excited chimpanzees. Or in Pokemon logic, primates. You take a pick. The first cards ever printed in the States were part of the base set. It has some refreshingly wicked designs for its boxes and card style. No boring same orange-blue Pokemon design that was reused day in and day out. This was the real deal. No overused vector graphics, no popping colors. The TCG's design elements were fresh and new. They primarily used Ken Sugimori's illustrations, and rightfully so. I don't know if this attracted kids to the game more or not, but I sure noticed how differently packaged and designed the cards were compared to the rest of the Pokemon products, which gave it more of a personality and appeal when you saw it in stores. The base set also saw the ever-popular Charizard card that everyone claims that was the rarest and strongest card of the first generation. I can't argue with that, as I know there were many of us who always wanted it. Many sets soon followed the base set, including Jungle, Fossil, Base Set 2, just a reprinting of the base set, and Team Rocket, all containing new cards and strategic advantages. What appealed to me about it was, of course, the uncertainty of the booster packs. In addition to the booster pack, Wizards created specific boxed decks containing a complete set of 60 cards for use in the card game, which I guess is kind of rippy-offy considering the point is to make up your own deck of 60 cards in order to deliver an unexpected edge to your opponent. But I did like the nice designs that the card boxes had. They even had really cool stamps telling you the difficulty of the deck, which makes no real sense, I think, but alright. Inside some of the packs was a PC program called Pokémon Play It, a tutorial of sorts that educates you on how to play the Pokémon card game. I'm sure this was a US exclusive, as the creepy CG character they had in it just doesn't feel right. To me, the best thing about the PC program was the Pokémon sounds. All of the Pokémon cards, when looked at through the gallery, were able to be clicked on, and the sound would appear. Heck yes! To me, these were the best Pokémon sounds I've ever heard, and I still think that. Sure, some of them spoke their names, but some of them were just way awesome. Here, listen, let me show you. Really, really awesome. Now, what appealed to me about the booster packs was, of course, its uncertainty. $3 was, and still is, not a cheap investment for the 11 pieces of glazed and nice-smelling paper. It was that uncertainty and sense of adventure that kept us buying more of the same. An old tactic, but it's still jarringly effective. Not to mention, the illustrations on the cards were really pretty to look at. Ooh, lovely illustrations! By a variety of artists from different backgrounds and styles. A regular Pokémon art gallery. I'm kind of disappointed that these illustrations didn't carry on past the 3-inch cards. I would love to see them in all their glory in a much bigger size on a web gallery somewhere, but alas, that was not meant to be. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of exclusively illustrated official art for the cards, and it really saddens me to know that they haven't been oogled at or used on any of the other merchandise at a bigger size than 1.5 inches across. Haven't they made a picture book with all the illustrations from the first 3 sets of Wizard of the Coast? It's about time they do that. The card game was a great alternative to the Game Boy game, and it has been much more successful than the games in a few respects. I know for a fact that the cards are much more popular, or were much more popular in Europe compared to the video games and over here, and probably in Japan too. They still have Pokemon leagues for the card game, and the ethics of trading and even selling and buying individual cards is what did it. Each card was priced depending on its rarity, and yes, it was a big deal back then. I didn't do much selling, but trading was essential to the Pokemon card game fame. I remember going to the local comic store when they were selling and buying Pokemon cards, and the moment I walked in, the clerk stopped me and said, "Let me guess. Pokemon." Yikes! Embarrassing. Kids played with the cards so frequently that of course it caused a widespread cautionary backlash by parents and teachers, possibly worldwide. I don't know what un-Pokemon addicted adults in Japan thought, but in the United States, most schools I knew had Pokemon banned, for obvious distractive reasons. And yes, I wasn't spared either. I had some of my Pokemon toys taken away at school for some time. Pokemon cards seem to be on everyone's minds, and even publishers. Anyone remember the magazine Beckett Pokemon Collector? Or Pojo's Pokemon, perhaps? The unofficial magazines were everywhere, and they were fun. They included price guides for cards and lists of them. And card piracy was also a big concern. Piracy! You gotta watch out for them silly pirated copies of Pokemon cards. Man, what is this? Ponyta Scratch 110? Holy crap. Remember the many cautions everyone kept telling about? Oh no, watch out for counterfeits, woo! That was everywhere. Seriously. Remember how to spot them? I don't know if this was purposely done to counter counterfeit cards, but when the cards were printed, they would have a dark piece of paper material embedded between the two printed papers, like a super thin sandwich. The result would be when you held out a card in front of the light wouldn't go through. But the counterfeit cards definitely would. Despite most cards being directly translated from the originals by Media Factory, some cards weren't, or at least not in the same way. I remember at school, kids would be talking about the Japanese card called Misty's Tears. Yeah, that card. I remember it shocked me to find out that, hey, Misty's naked on it. I was like, what? No way! And I couldn't get that off my 10-year-old mind for a while. I was like, this is wrong. After the base set, which came out in January 1999, wow, that's kind of late considering the video games and anime were around for a good 2 months before. The Jungle set was released in June. I really liked the themes they were going with, and the ads were clever and very nice. The Jungle Pack comprised of many more Pokemon not seen in the base set, and, because it was jungle themed, was overruled by plant types. Later on in October, the Fossil set came out. Wow, I don't remember having to wait so long for each card set to be out. The Fossil set was obviously excavation-y themed, and included the extinct Pokemon Aerodactyl, Ammonite, Kabuto, Omastar, and Kabutops. They should invent more cool extinct Pokemon. Fossil was unique in which it completed the final count of the 150 Pokemon available in the trading card game, making it possible to finally, truly catch all Pokemon in card form. Kids fought over them, and they probably made $1 billion by now. I don't want to sound biased or anything, but let's be honest. Wizards did a much better job designing the packaging. The originals from Media Factory Incorporated felt really flashy and kind of flimsy, not being very consistent despite having really cool original paintings on it. Wizards made their packaging look like it was worth the money. It felt sturdy, eye-catching, and clean. In February 2000, the widely seemingly rippy-offy Wizards exclusive, nope, never made in Japan, set called Base Set 2 came out. In February 2000. It wasn't really appealing to older fans, but I didn't see a difference, sadly. I think the Base Set 2 was invented due to the sold-out nature of the original base set. Anyway, it was important as it changed a few things to the US cards. Instead of using the starry, hollow foil graphics, it switched to the Cosmo style, which was being used by the Japanese versions, and is still being used today. And that was a good move, as it looks much more awesome and worth it. And lastly, what came after was another bit different expansion. Team Rocket. The Team Rocket expansion bent the rules of the game. Now there were dark Pokemon, which were probably Pokemon under the command of Team Rocket. The gold edges around the pictures were tainted darker as well, and it also saw some very different and new artwork with the cards, with some new artists lending a hand. The trainer cards and energy cards were given a hollow foil, something the previous sets never did. Did anyone ever question why the living daylights they called themselves Team Rocket anyway? What do Rockets have to do with anything that they're doing? Anyway, everyone had albums, and everyone was crazy about it. The trading card game was definitely a success in the Pokemon franchise, and the fact that it's still being made is a testament to its catchy gameplay and collectability. We played the cards, collected the toys, watched the show. Pokemon was in every store, every school, every house for that matter. Or at least almost every house. It was huge! We were all hypnotized into just getting as much Pokemon toys, games, cards, plushies, shampoos, food, and all other useless stuff as we could, even if it was a gigantic ripoff. Pokemon.com was established in 1998, back when the internet was just used primarily as an online news bulletin. Pretty much. Remember that? The Pokemon website certainly didn't look like what it does today. Pictures were scarce, text was abundant, and the notion of watching videos on them casually, like you're doing right now, was non-existent. It was much more simple. I mean, it looks like something you yourself would design on Microsoft PowerPoint. Even I couldn't believe how low-tech it was after seeing it after so long again. In my child's mind, it was still really pretty and hip. The images on the website were tiny. Tiny! You couldn't click on those tiny thumbnails to see the bigger images. Those were the images! I guess we all had smaller monitors too, running Windows 98 and whatnot. Then the news reached us, somehow, that they would release the first Pokémon movie. Oh wow, we even get a movie, is that right? Well, let's see how this movie fared. Anyway, anyone remember the TV show's episodes 61 to 63? It's the one that I was personally really interested in, and that was, I believe, the first time I heard of Mewtwo. See, when I started liking Pokemon, the thing was already at its craziest. It was the end of summer 1999, and almost all of the episodes have been released on video and shown on TV. And many kids already play the games. I didn't yet. So my favorite Pokemon at the time was Charizard. You have no idea how excited I was to see any episode that featured Charizard, geeking out just by getting a glimpse of it. And who didn't do this, really? I made up a bunch of new Pokemon and a truckload of evolutions for my then favorite. What you're seeing is rare, embarrassing stuff that I drew when I was 10 at school and showed to my friends. Jargod. Stupid. Sooner than later, Kids WB started advertising this episode on its channel.
Poke trainers, prepare yourselves.
What Pokemon is that?
Your friends cannot help you.
No available data.
Your Pokédex cannot help you.
Pokemon unknown.
Are you strong enough?
Bring back my Pikachu!
Your challenge awaits this weekend with 2 all-new Pokemon episodes only on Kids WB.
Short, I know, but that so-called special episode of Pokemon is, again, not really a special episode, really. It's just another routine episode in which Ash earns a final badge, the ground badge, by defeating Jesse and James, who took over from the actual gym leader, Giovanni, their boss, and the whole space aliens thing that was advertised so profusely probably lasted 2 minutes in the show, at the most, until it was revealed that it's just Team Rocket again. But what really struck my attention was this.
What Pokemon is that?
Your friend.
Holy cow, that is awesome. What was it? It was, of course, later revealed to be Mewtwo. And surprisingly, the show got a little bit creative and actually tied a few of the episodes that take place before the first movie with its story, in which the parts featuring Mewtwo with training armor was actually featured before the then upcoming movie. Between episodes 61 and 63, we were treated with the events that would take place in the Pokemon movie, of Mewtwo under Giovanni's control and finally destroying his hideout and escaping. That's the way you tease him. Not only that, but finally being creative and actually making it a solid continuity. Way to go, guys! The news and trailers of Pokemon the first movie sent all us Pokefans in a gigantic wave of anticipation, and I think it really boosted Pokemon's popularity a few notches. In fact, the first movie might very well be the Pokemon craze at its peak. We were treated with ads on TV such as this.
They're soaring, shocking, bubbling, and beaming. And on Wednesday, November 10th, you can catch them all in theaters for the first time. Pokémon, the first movie, plus the all-new short Pikachu's Vacation playing before Pokémon, the first movie. Together, only in theaters, Wednesday, November 10th, both rated G.
Yeah, what it told me was that this was going to be the biggest, mega, super awesome Pokemon match of all time. A clash of tiny titans. We were all revving up towards the release of Wednesday, November 10th, 1999. Yellow came out, and to celebrate Pokemon the first movie, Burger King had a ridiculously awesome set of Pokemon toys to collect with every kid's and big kid's meal. I unsuccessfully begged to eat at Burger King almost every day just to get those really well-made toys. Seriously, some of them were more accurately made and durable than those Tommy figures from Hasbro, which were really overpriced. Not to mention, they almost had all 151 Pokemon to collect. And they were separated into different categories. Some were wind-up toys, plushes, squirt guns, battle action, and electronic.
What do big kids want? More shots! More tricks! More height! More food. Big kids want to be treated like big kids.
So you can come to Burger King and get a Burger King Big Kids meal served your way with more great tasting food, fun, and of course, a cool toy.
Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Kangaskhan, Golem, Kabuto, Meow, Poliwag.
You kids aren't from around here, are you?
Now at Burger King, limited edition toys and trading cards from Pokémon the first movie. One inside every tasty Burger King Big Kids meal you buy. Taste rules.
Taste rules! Okay, my favorite were the ones that were simply just keychains. Because they had moving parts and were more accurately sculpted than the wind-up toys, for instance, which would have devices to wind it up with and all that. I'm sorry, but I like my Pokemon toys as accurate to their official depiction as possible, wind-up crap or not. Included with these toys were even weird Burger King created Pokemon cards, containing stills from the first movie and pieces of trivia, and on its back, a profile card of a random Pokemon too. Those were entertaining as well. The best part for me was the controversial Pokeball, which was included with every toy in the packaging. It was also awesome because you would never know what Pokemon toy you were getting, because it was inside the Pokeball in the package. But to me, the best part of this whole thing were the Pokeballs themselves. There was no other place to find accurately sized Pokeballs for sale. The ones from Hasbro had those horrible transparent Master Balls. The downside was, of course, the fact that these balls didn't have that recognizable black belt across it. It was just plain white. Easy fix though. Have any of you just used a Sharpie marker and just filled it in with black? I did, and it looked perfect. Of course, later on in 2000, as they re-released the Pokemon toys to Burger King, sadly, infomercials were playing where Burger King were recalling all the Pokeballs due to some pretty unfortunate deaths that resulted in some infants suffocating from it. Why the sculptors didn't just leave a tiny hole in the top of the lid is beyond me. Okay, enough Pokeball stuff. Anyway, I was very, very upset never to have gotten the Mew or Mewtwo figures I really wanted. I heard Mewtwo was packaged in a test tube rather than a Pokeball, much like, again with the Pokeballs, much like the movie. Anyway, after that wonderful sidetrack, let's get to it. Pokémon the first movie was heavily advertised and marketed, making it feel like the focus wasn't delivering a good movie, but just stirring up hype and focusing on getting as many suckers, worthy moviegoers' butts in the seats. Ads were everywhere, and the trailers really made it look like it was going to be truly epic. Something never seen in the Pokemon anime. Mew vs. Mewtwo. The ultimate clash. Clones vs. original. Fight destruction! Everyone remembers the special first movie promo cards they gave anyone who bought tickets in the first week. I only got Electabuzz, but thankfully my dad bought tickets in advance because when we got to the cinema, I have never seen a line that huge. Stretching from the inside of the theater way to the middle of the parking lot. It was insane. Clearly, Pokemon has reached some sort of crazy zombifying trance, and poor parents, who have no clue why, were forced into it to accompany us kids. I remember at my theater they collected kids' drawings of Pokemon and pasted them on the walls. Mine was there too. I drew a nice, retarded Mewtwo. So with your butts in the seats, the movie started. So the movie begins, not with the primary story, but with a mini-movie called Pikachu's Vacation. The movie starts out with Ash and the gang, who are mysteriously not shown the faces of, what is this, Peanuts? Who leave their monsters to a playground environment for Pokemon of some kind, for no particular reason. And the mini-movie focuses on Pikachu and the gang's Pokemon's misadventures during their one-day vacation. The movie has no dialogue except the ever-annoying Pokemon saying their own names, and interjections from Dexter, Ash's electronic encyclopedia, the Pokédex. Soon enough, Togepi, the baby Pokemon, keeps running off somewhere, and it's up to Ash's unevolved Shrimpamon to take care of it. During the task, they meet up with rival Pokemon, including two second-generation creatures, Schnabel and Meryl. Whoa! And it appears a rivaling gang, with Snubbull and Meryl, have started a rivalry between Ash's stupid Pokemon and, themselves. The rest of the movie has them sparring, while weed-inspired, bizarre Pokemon hallucinations a kid only sees when on a sugar rush transition scenes. Right. In the end, Charizard, Ash's monstrosity, has its head stuck in a pipe, whips out like the weakling it is, and in the end, all the Pokemon set aside their differences and help it out. Aw, how cute. Later on, Ash and his two companions come back, and that's basically the end of the drug trip of the story. Wow. When I was in the theater watching this, and I admit this is embarrassing, I brought my Pokemon toys with me, and I joined the crowds of children chanting all the names of each Pokemon that appeared on screen in unison.
Chansey! Farfetch'd! Raichu!
Seriously. It went on like this until the end of the short. Goodness knows what the parents were thinking. Probably this.
Pokemon World is a world of the demonic, of the satanic.
Finally, the main story begins. I always liked silent openings to a movie, and this isn't an exception. Both the Nintendo and Kids WB logos were silent, and the 4Kids logo made this epic whoosh sound. Now sit down, pretend you're in the cinema, and watch the beginning. Pokemon storytelling wasn't limited to the anime only.
Do you really think so?
Yes, I know so. Come on, guys. Really? Just the anime?
Of course!
In all its horribly repeating formula? Oh, no. We had books, literature, comics, field and strategy guides, novels too. I remember going to my local library, which is a really awesome library by the way, and checking out tons of Pokemon comics and strategy guides. Wait, sorry, I mean manga. Whatever. I'm still gonna call it comic. We had The Electric Tale of Pikachu, Magical Pokemon Journey, and holy cow, I don't remember all of this. Some really kiddie one for tiny kids. What was that Magical Pokemon Journey? Whatever. And I think this series is 30 times better than the anime. Drum roll, please. Pokémon Adventures! Believe me, if you haven't read these when you were a kid, you were missing out! There was even a quote by the game's original creator, Satoshi Tajiri, that "This is the comic that most resembles the world I was trying to convey." And that's what I felt as well. Pokémon Adventures follows the journey of not Ash Ketchum, but Red, and his rival Blue. In the Japanese version it's green, for obvious reasons. And the story is a billion times more creative than the anime. The character of Red is not just headstrong, cocky, and sometimes a jerk, but unlike Ash, he's strategically talented, uses more than just Pikachu, captures 20 Pokemon a day than Ash catches in a year, and... do I really need to go on? He's actually smart. So anyway, Red is already somewhat of a Pokemon trainer even before getting his first Pokemon from Professor Oak, rather spontaneously shall I say. And we follow his much more exciting journeys across the very uniquely stylized world that resembles the game's much more. The art style is what inspired me as a kid the most, drawn by the artist known only as Mato, who is in fact a chick. The circular, simplistic, and cutesy style is what connected me with the video games much more than the anime did. And I was constantly trying to master that drawing style when I was drawing my own adventures of Pokemon in 5th grade. I thought I was being really awesome, but of course, compared to now, it's kind of, well... His Pokemon adventures lead him through the Pokemon world of Red and Blue, of course, much like the anime, but expanded. It also saw the inclusion of a third rival of sorts, the female Green. A thief! Nothing but a no-good thief! Also, a very interesting character to boot, hindering and sneaking her way around, and why wasn't she in the anime? More accurately to the games, Green, Blue, and Red were the 3 trainers that took the 3 starters, as opposed to the anime where you never knew who the other 2 trainers were that took the other starters in the first episode. Yep. Another reason why this is better than the anime is that this has dismemberment and death. Just like the game intended. Remember the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town? Reanimated corpses of dead Pokemon, ghosts, and other creepy things. Yeah, it's all in there too. This is what Pokemon should have been like as an anime. While the setting and style mimics the game a lot, the story begins to differ much more. During the course of the story, we find out that 4 of the 8 gym leaders are in league with Team Rocket and start an uprising! Red is caught in the middle as he helps the good guys and the Elite Four kick their butts and save the day. How's that for a premise? Seriously, I think it's worth a look, if nothing else, for any of you who were into Pokemon but never had a chance to read this superior comic. Pokemon Adventures bent the rules of the game, and unlike the anime, had some very interesting story arcs and characters. Even Mewtwo's origin was more awesome in this one. Except for his giant... spoon. Never mind. Interestingly enough, Pokemon Adventures, like the anime, is still ongoing, even today. What I like about it is how it focused on different characters for each series, based on each game, and not just Red all the time. So many protagonists like Gold, Yellow, Crystal, Sapphire, you can go on and on. In fact, it reminds me of my own idea that I had with my own friends about our own potential series of stories. Something that was invented way back in 2000 and we kept adding on to up to 2003. It's really something special, and I'm going to talk about it in another episode. I hope to get your attention for that as well. The other comic around was Electric Tale of Pikachu. A comic with just 4 issues, but interesting nonetheless. This time around, instead of being directly based on the game like Adventures, Tales of Pikachu was pretty much inspired by the anime. It had Ash, who looked like Red, Misty, and Brock doing stupid things together, except that thankfully this was just loosely based on the anime, and did its own thing more often. The art style was probably the opposite of Pokemon Adventures. Where Adventures was cute, round, and poofy, Electric Tail was detailed, edgy, and... Whoa! Look at that! The Pokemon looked pretty realistic. This series also had some censorship shoved in, and, you know, it makes sense in this case, as most of the chicks in the comics were drawn with fairly large... bosmal areas. Misty included. And oh hey, if we're going that far, how about even no clothes? And yeah, don't expect that in your English copies for sure. And there was another comic leaning towards the girl audience. As they say in Japan, shoujo manga. I know shoujo pretty much means girl or girl-oriented in Japanese, but to me it just sounds so manly. See, look. Anyway, this comic was called
Magical Pokemon Journey! Ah!
And it kinda looks like Sailor Moon. And in typical made-for-girls fashion, the story centers around a girl named Hazel, who is on a quest, not to become the greatest trainer, no, but to get some punk kid to like her back.
Oh! And on the way, she catches a few ridiculously bubbly and cute Pokemon.
Aw, doesn't this just want to make you smash your face into submission because of how cute everything was drawn? If I see one more cutesy picture, my head might explode. There were also comics directly based off the TV show available in magazines such as Nintendo Power and Disney Adventures. Yeah, those magazines. I used to like them as a kid, but what's the point if it's using screen caps from the actual show and you can just watch it on TV? Also, I really liked how Disney Adventures was littered with Pokémon stuff. Pokémon Stadium, Pokémon for the win! Ads, ads, ads! So fun, so good. I hope you too gained some knowledge in reading crazy Pokémon tales such as these as a kid. And, you know, it inspired you, like me, to, I don't know, buy more Pokémon stuff? Be creative. Be Pokémon-centric. Who knows? Aw, how cute! People collected Pokémon cards, played the Game Boy games, and watched the anime. I did that too, but the first thing I tried to seriously collect were the 2-inch figures of a Japanese toy manufacturer called Tommy. Or Tomy. Tommy. Never heard of it? It's okay. It was distributed by Hasbro in the non-Asian areas of the world. Check it out!
You want new Pokemon to capture?
Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Psyduck, Pikachu, Poliwhirl, Poliwag, Pokeball Blaster! Pokemon Master! Set sold separately. Electronic Psyduck needs end batteries not included from Hasbro.
They were appealing to me because they were a pretty convenient pocket size and were of sturdy quality. Not hollow or cheap feeling at all. I also liked the paint job on them. Not bad. I even went so far as to try to host Pokemon figure tournaments. And you remember those silly cardboard coins they included with the figures? Those are just simply flipping coins in which you and your opponents toss to see which Pokemon defeats which. Whoa, such strategy! I should have known better than to have thought this game wasn't just a simple piece of crap. But the figures are still cool. Actually, most of them were. The way they were packaged and sold still baffles me. First of all, the packaging. It's nice. I mean, I like the red, orange, sky blue color scheme, even though about every single product at the time was using it. But there was such a waste of space when the figures were placed in the cardboard card. 2 types of packs were sold. One containing a pair of Pokemon, usually a Pokemon and its evolution, or one containing 3 Pokemon, again, usually it and its 2 stages of evolution. But then, sometimes it got so utterly random, like Gengar and Meowth? What? Why was there a Gengar and a Meowth in a pack to whatever. The 2 Pokemon packs included a transparent Pokeball. Sorry, I mean Master Ball. Why is it a Master Ball and why is it a transparent? Okay, I know in the comics the top of the ball was usually transparent so you can see the Pokemon inside it, but both the comic and anything else Pokemon related all consider the Master Ball to be the rarest. The fictional company Sylph in the game didn't even mass produce it yet. And most powerful ball to capture Pokemon with. So, why was it a Master Ball? I have like a dozen of them now, but only one Pokeball, which was only available in the trainer figures. Which is another mystery! Why are all the anime-based trainer figures so gigantic? All the Pokemon were on a 2-inch scale, which is also silly because Pikachu is taller than Venusaur. But the human trainers are like almost 6 inches in height. And add to the fact that they don't even have any movable parts. 0. It's basically just a big plastic statue. And geez, the pose is so boring. Oh, my life is ruined. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's go. Now, the 3-pack contained a Pokeball Blaster! Thank you. And it just does this. Pokeball Blaster! Yeah. Totally worth $7.99. If they had a shred of creativity, they'd do what they were doing now. From what I've seen at outlet stores, the new Pokemon figures are probably 10 times more fun looking than what I had to cope with in 1999. This was something I was hoping for at the time, but it never happened. Oh man! Look at all this! The new toys have moving parts, are nice looking, and have much cooler looking packaging design and shape. Thanks again, people. Thanks for making cool stuff when I don't care about it anymore. Anyway, I was always wishing them to have all 151 Pokemon available to collect as figures because, as we all know, they didn't. Cheapskates. And I also wish the figures would have been far more detailed and had some really lovely poses instead of just being based off the supremely overused official art based on Ken Sugimori's first drawings of each monster. Also, to have their size ratio accurate to what is described in the games and seen in the anime. Yes, I'm aware Onyx and Gyarados would have cost around $13 or so, but coupled with cool poses and possibly even made up a more elaborate strategy game to use them with. For example, you could build your own Pokemon team of 6 with these figures and wrote down attacks and levels based on an algorithm provided from a rulebook of some kind. Mimicking the card game to an extent, but making use of the fact that they are physical models on the playing board. I tried doing that myself as a kid, but I failed completely. The prices for the quality and quantity of the toys also were a bit rippy-offy. $5 for 2-inch plastic immovable models? $8 for 3! Not to mention, for some reason, the trainer statues were in 10. Then there was that ridiculous Pokemon Pikachu Tamagotchi thing. I've never played it, I've never been interested in it, but lo and behold, I'm talking about it now. Apparently it was a very little miniature Pokemon carrying device where you kept shaking this stinking thing to do something to Pikachu.
This is Pocket Pikachu. I can exercise with it, give it gifts, even watch it sleep.
In the future, they would have made Pikachu 2 GS, which was much more useful because you could connect it with the Game Boy and get a mystery gift each day. But the newest form, which will be released with the GS remakes in like 2 days or something, is probably the most useful. Funny how it took them almost 10 years to figure that one out. Each and every product, ranging from bed sheets, to shampoo, to skateboards, to models, kept using the same design. Consistent, yeah, but it was annoying. Especially the same freaking official art plastered around each of the products! How many times have we seen the same freaking picture for every piece of merchandise ever sold? Couldn't they have changed it? Did you even know that I didn't even realize Charizard had 2 horns until I finally got to see it in the anime? Thanks to the only artwork anyone ever seems to use. However, recently they've been much more creative with the packaging and designing. And surprise, I'm not a kid anymore. It's like they knew Pokemon made a ton of money regardless of their creativity involved in anything. But the games it originated from. Wait, maybe that was the whole deal anyway. Too bad. Of course, I believe nowadays, they have to display a lot more appeal and creativity within marketing and design of the boxes and quality of the figures, simply because Pokemon is just not as big as it once was. Yes, 3rd and 4th geners, suck it up, Pokemon is past its prime. Oh hey, wait, sorry, I just remembered. Check this out!
Nobody knows every Pokemon. Master knows! Who weighs more, Metapod or Pidgeotto? Pidgeotto by 44 pounds. Bulbasaur's height? 2 feet 4 inches. How does he do it?
Electronic Pokedex for Master Trainers from Abra to Zubat. Master 'em all.
Weedle's number? 13.
150 Pokemon with all the best fighting moves. Electronic Pokedex for Master Trainers. New from Tiger.
That kid was like, what, 15? But he sounds like a 2-year-old. The device we all wanted ever since the show and the games came out. The Pokédex. Woo! I can't believe they even made it. But they did! And I used to have it. The Pokédex was cool because with it, you were able to see most of the data you could easily see on the Game Boy game. Make some pointless comparisons between monsters and have a checklist. But what for? I mean, the Pokédex was totally fine in the game, so what was this one for? Who knows, but it looked relatively cool. Too bad they never made a real Pokédex that was actually compatible with the Game Boy game, and does things kind of like the Pikachu thing. Oh well. Anyway, despite how ranty this part was, I still like all these toys, and even though I just barely skimmed through the avalanche of merchandising, I hope you had fun watching it.
Now there's even more Pokemon to capture.
Oh dear goodness.
Vaporeon, Hypno, go! Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur!
Pokemon Blaster!
I gotta capture all new Pokemon. And when I train them, I will be the Pokemon Master! Mewtwo, Ash, Mew, and Pikachu! New Pokemon are here! Can you catch them all? I'll be a Pokemon Master! Set sold separately, electronic Pokemon requires N batteries not included from Hasbro.
Up next, we'll get to something far more interesting. The Orange Islands and Pokémon the Movie 2000. And all the cool stuff that happened concerning Pokémon. And I'm making this sound way too exciting than it actually is.
Kids WB presents Pokémon the Movie 2000.
Pikachu!
Dumb Pikachu.